Your host.
Happy Thursday.
Hello.
It's the three of us today.
Friends, how are we?
You guys just look spry, ready to take on the Thursday.
I'm going on a family canoeing trip this weekend. I'm really looking forward to it.
In the middle of winter.
And I've been in the middle of it. I've been doing some canoe research, and I realized that if you turn a canoe over, you can use it as a hat because it's capsized.
That's actually a good one.
Oh gosh. What do you call a line of men waiting for a haircut?
A line of men waiting for a haircut. A receding hairline?
No, pretty good.
Oh, that's a good one.
Hey. A barbecue.
A what?
A
barbecue.
Oh,
barbecue. Barbecue.
Okay, I can't even keep up. Listen, all I have is one of my favorite stupid little jokes today. What did the 0 say to the 8?
What did the 0 say to the 8, Stephanie?
Nice belt.
That's cute. That's a cute
right?
one. Yeah.
Okay, listen. We're trying to lighten the room because our topic today could be a little like heavy for sure. But before we start, Anthony, Chris and I needed to talk to you today about something. And we don't know how to say this, so we're just going to come out and say it. We're going to have to lay you off from How to Founder. Unfortunately, it's a budget thing. It's not us, it's you.
You can't lay me off. I have the keys to StreamYard and YouTube. You're screwed to let me go.
We should have thought about that before we brought him in.
Right, Chris,
I'm laying you two off.
Listen, what do you do?
What do you do? What do you do in that scenario? Let's talk about that in a little bit. Go ahead and open us up, Steph. We should talk about when an employee does that to you, when they hold the keys. That's interesting.
What do you owe someone in the 30 seconds after you've just ended their career? That's really dramatic. When David Cancel had to do his first round
what a
of layoffs.
Perfect name for a boss. If your boss's name, what's going to happen?
When David Cancel had to do his first round of layoffs at Drift, he said the business math was easy. The hard part was looking at people he personally convinced to leave stable jobs and telling them it was over. That's a really, really, really good point.
Mm-hmm.
Talking on How to Founder today, we are going to be talking about layoffs, not the business mechanics, but the human experience of sitting across from someone and delivering the worst news of their week. I don't think me telling you were laid off from the podcast was the worst news of your week. I mean, that's part of the problem, right?
and it's not the worst news of their week. It's not the worst news of the week, right? Because people getting laid off. I think we talked about this earlier in an early episode. People being let go can be as if or more traumatic than losing somebody close to them to a death.
Yeah. Because and there's a lot of reasons why that. So let's dive in.
It'll trigger.
Yeah, let's dive in. So we're doing something a little different today. It's just the three of us. We don't have a guest. We are going to talk about personal experiences, both as the receiver and the deliverer, the initiator of layoffs. What is it that makes a layoff so difficult from a human experience? I mean, let's just kind of banter back and forth on all of the reasons that this becomes a really tricky experience. Beyond the obvious, Chris, like what for you makes a layoff hard?
Not to go too academic-y, but The truth is that what we do for a living is part of our identity. And when we show up and meet somebody at a party or a restaurant, it's not like, hey, what's your favorite band? It's what do you do? What do you do for a living? Your job, your profession is part of who you are. If you have a good job, it's part of your ego. It's the thing that you feel proud about. If you have a crappy job, maybe something you're embarrassed about, but the idea is that it becomes part of you as much as any other part of your identity, about being a member of a family or a member of a church or a member of an organization. It becomes part of you. And when somebody tells you that you can't be part of that thing anymore, and that's no longer part of your identity, that's a very painful moment. It is. It's a loss. There is a moment of grief around that, in the same way that losing, I don't want to say, equate it to losing a parent or a loved one or something like that, but there is a similar amount of grief that I think happens in those moments. What do you guys think?
Anthony, what about you? What do you think is the super hard part about these layoffs?
Well, so as a founder, you're essentially admitting that you made a big mistake. Like this is any termination, but especially a layoff when you have to reduce headcount in order to make it as a company. You're admitting, man, I really screwed up my forecasting. I really was overly optimistic in hiring. This is entirely my fault. And I think that is that fundamental truth of what a layoff is, causes founders and executives alike to have the worst opening line to a layoff ever possible. And that is, guys, this is really hard on me. Never say that. They don't care. You're keeping your job. They're not. They don't care if it's hard on you.
There's a great line in Jerry Maguire when he's like, think about how hard this is on me having to fire you. Like,
yeah.
I think there was an important line in that opener too, which sort of resonated with me. It's like, I've convinced you to leave your job and come here. I mean, I've been in a position before where it wasn't me doing the layoffs, but our company had to lay a bunch of people off. This was .com stuff, right? Lay a bunch of people off. And there were people that we had convinced to come over 2 weeks before, and then all of a sudden they no longer have any sort of livelihood and what have you. Part of the problem is the planning, right? The timing. I think this is where a lot of people get it wrong, is that the timing, you can't leave it too long, because then you can't take care of the folks that you have to let go, right? But then founders often do take too long because they continue to be optimistic that maybe they're going to turn something around, or they're hopeful or what have you. So what's the right timing to do a layoff from a compassionate perspective, right?
So Stephanie, related to that, so there's a couple of things, right? So I had to do a layoff at MC Squares, and we decided the right timing we decided that we needed to do it was when we realized we needed to do it, it was the end of November.
Always, right? God, it's always the worst time.
We had to do this calculus, like, do we do it before Christmas, and give them a month and give them a month severance, or do it after Christmas and give them a week severance? We chose, I don't know if we chose right. We chose not to ruin people's holidays. But that probably in hindsight is probably the wrong decision. Timing is such a difficult question, because there's also this I think I could squeeze another. I think I can turn this around in 3 weeks, which is the same fallacy that if you hit a golf shot into the rough, you can hit the magical shot to get out of it.
Of course, right? Yeah. mean,
So,
But I mean, like,
I think that's a
let's
wrong.
not talk in absolute terms, but like, what are the things you have to consider that you want to enter into a layoff notice with? Like, can I give them 2 months of severance? Can I, like, what are the important things to make sure are in place? Because that helps you decide when are you going to actually have the conversations.
Yeah, I think a minimum of 4 weeks of severance is probably, if you hit the point where all you can offer is 4 weeks of severance, it's time to pull it. You need to give them a time. Need to give them, if you can, right? Some companies, something dramatic happens, and all of a sudden you have no cash. And in that circumstance, it's you have to do it like right away, because you're going to miss payroll, and you're going to find yourself either in a lawsuit or putting somebody in a really bad spot where the paycheck's not coming. That's actually happened to me. So yeah, the sooner the better. Make the hard call. The sooner the better. Chris?
I think it's right. I think it's what's striking me in this conversation, and I think probably having gone through this, and I, again, without trying to be insensitive to the people that I've had to lay off in the past, it is the worst day of a founder's life. It is miserable because you're trying to sell a vision, and then you're going to people that you have taken care of their families and they're saving for retirement, and you've asked them to take less money to come take a chance on you and your dream and your vision, and you're coming and telling them you can't do it. It's terrible. That's almost colored the way that I operate businesses today, which is I almost start with this idea of like, when I hire somebody, I make sure that they understand that they're entering into a high risk endeavor.
Yeah, I agree with that.
May not make it, and that I'm going to do everything I can to make sure they're okay. But there's so many factors that are out of my control now. And so I used to, early in my career, wasn't very transparent about cash and about finances. And now I'm overly transparent. We've talked about it, Anthony. Sometimes people are like, look, I don't want to know, but I do. I want to make sure that people understand where the company is, because the absolute worst thing, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this or had to do it, is laying off people when they had no idea. They had no idea that the company was in trouble. They had no idea that we were running out of cash. That's a even worse thing than to have to lay people off when it's just out of left field for them.
So if we talk about this from the perspective of the employee, what is it that they would want going in, like coming out of that conversation? What would they want to be true? And I don't mean like,
me, I haven't been laid off ever. I've just been fired. So I wouldn't know.
I mean, not just
there's not much that's just the distinction of the word of it. You're still losing your job either way.
Yeah, but there's this thing for gross negligence and other
running an OnlyFans channel from your project.
But it wasn't a very successful. That's why I had to lay people off, Stephanie. My OnlyFans wasn't doing that.
If
from the
Chris is relying on OnlyFans for income, he's in trouble.
What I mean is from the perspective of the employee, not what do they want to walk away with, but what would be important to them that you can make sure happens during that conversation or leading into that conversation. Like what does the employee actually want? Because honestly, the losing the income is one thing, but I think that like I've had people I've laid off come back the next day with flowers for me and say, thank you for being this way, right? So losing the income is one thing, but there's a whole other nuance too. Like I have seen this done so poorly. I've seen this done well. Like what's most important to the employee that their experience is what?
I believe that stoicism really matters in leadership. I do think that stoicism is a trait that you need to practice often and always, except in this situation. In this situation, stoicism, coldness, is cruel. It's honestly, it's just cruel. There is this fine line between this is hard on me, saying those words, and showing that it is. And showing that you have actual, you can even say, this is my fault. I've messed this up. I'm broken over this because I put us here. I want, as an employee, I would want accountability. I would want to see that this is, I don't want to hear that this is hard, but I'd want to see that it's hard, because it is. I think coldness is the worst thing that you can do. Empathy is the best. The other thing is, the other thing that has helped me in this situation quite a bit is a genuine, I've done this a couple of times where before I let somebody go, I've made some phone calls. Hey, I've got this really good project manager. I'm going to have to let them go. Where, like, actually put forth the effort, if you're able to find them a place where they land, or at least commit that you'll be there. You'll be there with them along their job hunt. I think that's also really important.
I think there's a couple principles here that just came up. And the first one is, you have to do this job. If you have an HR person, if you're a big company, you have VPs, doesn't matter. You have to be the person that's in the room. I will tell you that for me, I know that this is kind of maybe, I don't want to say controversial, but you as a founder will not forgive yourself if you don't sit down and look that person in the eye. I've seen people do it. I'm just pulled up an article about a CEO who fired 900 employees over Zoom. It's like, pulled them into a room and said, if you're in this room, you're fired. Like, okay, right?
There's a lot of, like, that's a surefire way to get yourself as a meme on X if you do that.
That is 100% true. The second thing is true is that what you're saying, Anthony, is the principle there is that you need to make sure that you're trying to keep their ego intact as much as possible. You explain the facts to them. You explain why this decision was made. You explain that this was not based on performance. It was not based on them. This is a company decision. This is the decision. This is the reason why. This is the reason why I'm keeping this department and not that department, or this person and not that person. And you have to be honest about that. And then, Anthony, to your point, you have to look them in the eye and say, I will do anything I can to help you in this transition. Anything. I will pick the phone and call any CEO. I will be a referral. I will write you recommendations. I'll kick down doors for you, because that's how much I believe in you as a human being. And know that this is not about you. It's about the company and the business. And if you could separate those two things, I think it makes it a little easier on the human, Stephanie. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I worked with a company who had to do some large scale layoffs, and they actually facilitated a job fair for the people that were being laid off, which I thought was super interesting. And, even if it didn't result in new hires, it was an effort, right? It was an effort. I think, as somebody who would be going through a layoff, and, in the .com days, we had lots of those. I think what would be really important to me would be a genuine connection with the leader of the organization, right? Or whomever I spend most of my time with, working with. I mean, that's more important to me than it being the CEO in the room. It's more like, who do I report to, and who's, how does this feel grave, right? What signals to me that the organization is taking this really seriously and understands the impact. The second part of the conversation, what I would really appreciate, is not a bunch of oh, I'm so sorry, but hey, can we sit for a minute and talk about what my next steps might be? Can we use this time to sort of brainstorm what might be a good path for me to I would love to open the opportunity for them to say, well, if I'm not going to have this job, what I'd really like to do is go over here, or work for this person, or continue in this role, and spend a little bit of time talking about how I can support them, right? How could I get them to the next place? But I think you also just want to have space for somebody to feel something, right? The chances are the employees are not going to be surprised, right? Most of the time that we've had to do layoffs, the employees knew, they knew that things were not going well because we were communicating that, right? You don't have to say, oh, everything's in the shitter, but like, just by nature of the fact of some of the things that we have to do as an organization, they know, right? Like they should know. So I agree with you, Chris, like that transparency is so important to have as an organization for 100 different reasons. But when you do get to this point, it makes things a little bit easier. And
well, so I want to loop back to something Chris said, because you said something in an absolute that I want to challenge you on, and I'd like your thoughts on it. Actually, you said it's not performance based, but Steph is still here. Why are you keeping Steph and not me? Where did that decision stand? But I mean, I'm being tongue in cheek, but truthfully, that's what's going on in somebody's head. It's like, well, there's something like, why are you keeping them and not me? So it is kind of performance based, isn't it?
It's the thing is the reality is yes. I mean, unless you're eliminating a line of business or you're eliminating an entire function of the business.
Eliminating a line of business is still perform. If that business unit was performing, they would still have their job.
And this is, and I think it's an interesting point, because I think that everything we've been saying here is about being authentic and real as you're sitting across from that employee.
And you just did not do that.
And well, but the other piece, when I say that you have to have your ego and their ego intact, you have to be able to give them a story. And I know it sounds crazy, but you have to be able to have them be able to tell a story about why they are leaving this job.
Yeah.
And it can't be, hey, you sucked. Like, you just weren't good at this job. You were a bad fit. You're a bad hire. I should have never hired you. It has to be something along the lines, the business is experiencing this, the market has experienced this, the fundraising situation is this. And so we have to do this. We think you're amazing, because that piece, that story is the story that they're going to have to go tell future employers. And the first question there is, why'd you leave, How to Founder podcast? As well, Anthony fired me.
And they do need a better story than that company had a riff, right?
Yeah.
Because what the hiring manager is going to think to themselves is, well, they had a riff and you were the one that they let go. So obviously you weren't keepable. So you're right, Chris. They do need a better story than that.
I want to ask a question, and this is just flipping this on the head. And Stephanie, forgive me for jumping into your seat, but what do you do if you're the one getting laid off? How would you approach that? I've gotten laid off. I'm assuming you guys have as well. After you get over that momentary kind of emotional shock, what do you do? How do you get the most out of that interaction? Because it is a unique moment in time where if you're sitting across from somebody that actually has a little bit of heart and compassion, you can actually leverage that for your, future growth.
So this is where I think it comes back to one of the most important things you can do as a leader is to know the person in front of you. And so that's why layoffs can't be for everybody. I just show up and I say this thing. Certainly from a legal perspective, there are things you can and cannot say. But if I know that the person in front of me is somebody who takes a long time to sort of process and get around, I'm going to say to them, like, I understand this is really tough right now, and I want to give you the time to be able to, process or whatever. But I would love to schedule a time with you when you're, feeling like you're ready to have the conversation and brainstorm with you and talk about how can we support you getting into your next thing. Whereas if it was me receiving the layoff, I would want to have that conversation right then, because my brain goes immediately into how am I going to solve this problem? So the answer is you should know the person you're sitting in front of and give them what they need rather than trying to approach it the same way with every single person.
I would say, so let me talk about really quick. Let me talk about really quick. So if you have the capability to be aware of the situation, because this is a very emotional situation for people getting laid off or let go in general. If you can be aware of two things. One, this isn't your RIF doesn't stand for relieved of income forever, right? It's so you will find another way to earn a living. The second piece is don't do things that's going to make the person sitting across from you not want to help you find your next thing. There's no negotiating your way back into the job. It's the decisions made.
Screw you,
yeah.
Screw you. You're cool.
Don't go that direction. Chris said it perfectly, or maybe you did, Stephanie, where this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for you to ask something from that person sitting in front of you to help you find your next gig. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to find something better or something that you're more passionate about. So if you can have the mental capacity to take a beat, be sad, be afraid, and say that, oh gosh, this is very scary for me. I'm wondering what can you do to help me find my next gig? That's going to be the best thing that you can do in order to leverage the situation that you're in right now. There's no getting out of the situation. It's done. It's baked. Even if you're being fired incorrectly, which you now may have a lawsuit, but even if that's the case, there's no renegotiating your way back into the job. It's just never happened.
Okay, so I'm going to change.
Just one additional point. I'll be fast with it. When you in that moment, your natural reaction is shame, and it's to hide and run.
Yeah.
It takes a tremendous amount of courage to sit there and be still and take a deep breath. And to your point, Stephanie, ask, hey, maybe not right this moment, but I'd really love to have a follow-up conversation with you. I'm a little bit emotional in this state. I got to kind of process this, but I'd really like to have a conversation. Anthony, I had so much guilt when I did this. I would have loved for employees to come in and have that conversation with me.
Yeah.
I would have done anything to help them.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stephanie. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's good. I wanted to just change tack a little bit and talk about post layoffs. How do you lead the remaining team?
It's a great
when
conversation.
when you've just had to go through this and you feel like a fraud. How do you go back the next day and say, okay, team, let's get to it?
The first thing you have to do is acknowledge the fact that what just happened. And it's not the next day, right? It's immediately after.
Yeah.
By the way, if you can do a layoff one by one, that's how you should do it. You shouldn't do it as a group of 10.
No, definitely not.
But sometimes you have to do it as a group. And then immediately after that, you need to have a conversation with the rest of the group and say, all right, here's what happened. Here's what happened. Here's why it happened. And then leave the space for people to participate in the conversation. Say what they're feeling. Say where they're at. Leave that space and don't be defensive. Just listen. Just hear them where they're at. You'd be surprised about how many people are going to say something like, yeah, we kind of felt like we were a lot slower, and wondering, like, there's almost a relief that it wasn't me in the team that's remaining. There's also that you also have to understand it's like, oh my gosh, I now have double the work. So you have to address both of those.
I think that that's exactly correct. You have to leave the space. It is a moment. The person you're sitting next to that you went to lunch with is now no longer there. You have guilt that you're, kind of, I don't mean to belittle this, but like that survivor's guilt concept of I'm here and they not, and I understand the reason they were explaining, but there's also a moment. And this moment is a moment where you as a founder can retrench and align your team. It can be a very powerful leadership moment for you to say, guys, here's where we are. Here's the job in front of us. We now have less resources, but we also have less burn rate. Here's what we have to do. If you're here, it's because this is the team that we have to do it with. The other piece is, and you have to be honest about this, and this is kind of maybe a thing we should touch on. is that when you lay off, it needs to be sufficient for you to reach your goal. It should not be a thin cut. It should always be a bigger cut even than you think you need to make, because the last thing you want to do is a second round of layoffs, even within like 6 months or a year. It is a devastating thing for morale if you start to do rounds of layoffs, because then it's just people are looking around saying, what's next? And so it's an opportunity for you as a leader, as a CEO, as a founder, to really try to get people aligned and retrenched on what it is that we're trying to do and the vision you're trying to do it in. But also, Anthony, leaving that initial space to understand it's going to be a shock for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to give them the space to ask questions, to emote, to express where they're at. But I think the right energy is, all right, this sucks, you guys. This has been really difficult. The opportunity we have on the table right now is to figure out how, as a small team, we can turn things around, and let's get into figuring out what that looks like. And that collaborative effort is super important energy in that moment. We are fixing this together. You are not a team that's coming and that feels very disempowering. I'm going to tell you what to do now. I think actually more effective for your culture is to enable everybody to have a seat at the table to say, what from your perspective do we absolutely need to do right now?
I had a conversation with somebody that you and I know, Anthony, somebody you and I know well, and we've had the conversation about him in the past about this zombie company, and he had to do layoffs. And he said it was during COVID or right after COVID. And he said he pulled into the parking garage and he turned off the car and he sat there for 5 minutes and 10 minutes. And he was like, the meeting starts in 3 or 4 minutes. Like, he had to get out and go. But he said, I wasn't going to get out of the car until I was ready to get up in front of that room and be the leader that this group needed at that moment. And this was the meeting afterwards. He'd already done the layoffs, was emotionally drained, was upset, was pissed, was guilty, was angry. And he said, I just had to reset. I sat in the car for 10 minutes trying to figure out what I was going to say to this group, because I knew that this group needed a leader and I needed to be the leader that they needed in that moment. He said, by the time I got in the elevator, I got up and said, all right, guys, here's what we're going to do. And got them aligned, got them focused, all that same energy. But it was a really trying and difficult moment for this founder CEO. He's a terrific leader, but he's like, I was just emotional. I had nothing left. I was emotionally drained. And I had to
before we get into the speed round, I want to reinforce that, Chris. I think that's incredibly important, and just say, this is what leadership is, doing this correctly. It's easy to be a great leader when times are good, right? Because you get all the accolades. It's hard to be a great leader, put your big boy pants on, if you will, and do the hard things well.
One additional point on this, Anthony.
Yeah.
This is the job that we sign up for, right?
Yes.
Stephanie? Like, this is the job when you say you're going to be a founder and you want to be a founder and CEO and you want to do this and you want to create this thing and you build this thing. It also means that you're probably going to have terrible days too. And you have to be acknowledged that that's part of this job. And it's the best job in the world. We love it, right? We wouldn't do any other job. But there are terrible, terrible, terrible days. We've all been through them. This is shutting down a company is the worst day ever. Laying people off is kind of the second worst day ever.
Yeah.
Right?
In my experience, what all the people I've had a pretty good track record of having to lay people off, and then they come back and they're like, thank you. So one of the things that they always have said that they appreciated most was the transparency and the honesty, and not hiding something or pretending that something is going to be wonderful. I very recently had to let one of my team members go, and had nothing to do with performance. It was purely a business performance, like a money thing, right? And it was sort of a protracted conversation over a number of months where, I was very honest with her about how things were going and that the business couldn't afford to keep her around. Even though I knew how, so we sort of whittled it down to what does the role become? And it gave her enough time to go and look for other things. And, she was a contractor, but it's sort of the same, right? It's still the same thing. Like she's still dependent on the money. So it gave her the time to sort of have the foresight to go, and I helped her go and look for other. And what she came back and said to me was like, actually, it was a gift to me because it helped me get out of a rut that I was in. And it helped me see that I could actually go and provide for myself and not rely on someone else to be providing for me all the time. So the best case scenario is that things end up like that, right? But that just comes from, all people have said, we really appreciated your transparency and honesty because we had conversations with them long before we had to lay them off and say, hey, shit's not going as well. Here's what we're going to try. If it doesn't work out, the next thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're emotionally ready for the speed round. Get your panties on, your big boy panties.
That speed round graphic is so damn good.
I wonder who did that. Who built that graphic?
Gosh, who did that? All right. Anthony, you're going to answer first for this one.
Okay.
Because this is more aligned with who you are as a person. And I can imagine you being in the situation. Cry in the room or hold it until they leave?
Oh, it's a great question. So never sob, never sob. No, I didn't. Never sob, don't sob. But if you're choked up, that's totally fine. Don't.
It's good,
stoicism
actually.
hurts you. Yeah.
If I'm laying somebody off or I'm getting laid off, because if I'm laying somebody off, it's exactly right. I can get choked up, but if I'm crying, all I'm doing is trying to step on their feelings. Like that's
exactly right.
Yeah, get your big boy panties on, Stephanie.
Ew. Hug them until if they're crying, or keep physical distance.
Physical distance.
Neither. You can put your hand on their shoulder, but don't go in for a hug. That's just awkward. Anthony does that to me. It's just.
I grab your ass. There's a difference.
Yeah, inappropriate hugging, maybe not. But again, I come back to like
you can hug, Stephanie. You can hug. I can't.
What?
You can hug. I can't. Just
look.
It is
the
truth.
To me, it depends on who it is.
Yeah,
there are people
for me, it
who
doesn't.
Get a lot, yeah,
there
are people who would get a lot of.
So I disagree, Anthony. When there's people that when I was working with Clever Funnel, and these people I was very close to, and I hugged them. Like we hugged, and it was okay, right?
You're taking a risk if you do that. Unfortunately, I think that's true. You're taking a risk if you do that.
Okay, fair.
Let them vent their anger at you or redirect the conversation. La la la. Just wear your noise canceling AirPods and let them go, right?
Let them vent to a point.
Agreed.
Okay. Offer to be a reference or stay silent unless asked.
I always offer to be a reference, and the reason why I'm pausing, I'm like, is that the right way to go? I think that's the right way to go. Offer to be a reference, especially if you mean it and they deserve it.
Yeah, if they deserve it and mean it, the answer is yes. But go beyond that. Offer to help them. Offer to help make calls, send emails on their behalf, etc.
I would actually put a task force to get like a team or an individual in place to specifically help them in their job search. Like that is probably the most helpful thing that you can do. Some may take advantage of it, some may not. But when that large organization actually like put a whole like job fair together for people to find their next gig, like that's it. That's like as empathetic as you can be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell them before the team knows or after. I mean, this isn't even a question.
Yeah. Go to the next question. Do you have backups?
Oh, okay. Morning layoff or end of day?
As soon as humanly possible.
Yeah, so, I don't know that I have an opinion. It's like when you've made the decision, you have to do it immediately after you've made the decision. It doesn't.
You have to get your ducks in a row, and if it's morning, afternoon, or night, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because I would release them at that moment. If they want to go home, they can go home. If they
so
want to stick
morning
around
for
and,
them
like,
is better, right? Morning for them is better because they have the rest of the day, but not if you're delaying. If you're delaying 12 hours in order to give them the bad news in the morning.
okay. Practice the script or trust yourself in the moment.
Depends on who you are.
I don't
That's a
script
you
anything.
decision.
So yeah, I mean, also scripting makes you feel disingenuous. Sit in the room and talk to the human.
Yeah.
Totally. Check on them a week later or give them space.
Chris?
I would check on them. I would send them an email and just say, hey, if you want to check in, let me know. If not, I totally respect.
I think that's, Chris is better at this than I am.
Right? You be available.
Yeah.
You be available to them. You give, and I think, again, knowing the person, who do they think is the most valuable person in the company that could help them with their next step? And I think you arrange to make them available. All right. Good conversation. Hard topic. Something that we have to go through as founders.
I feel anxious now just after that episode. That I feel yucky.
It's terrible, but also I think the course of these conversations, particularly that the three of us have, this is one of those things that founders need to know and understand, even as they're going into this job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is probably something you're going to have to do.
I would say the worst experience I've had as somebody being laid off was when the two CEOs or the two leaders of the company sit there in a room, you know what you're walking into, and they're like, bloody, 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 blah. Here's the contract. Here's the agreement. Sorry, right? Like, just be a human, right? Just how would you have a difficult conversation when you're going to a breakup or like whatever, right?
Stoicism loses here. It just loses every time.
The only thing
we're going to have to do a whole other episode on your opinion that stoicism is important as a leader.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll get into some therapy around that too.
The only other thing, Stephanie, is that if this is your first time going through it, you're going to have lawyers and HR people trying to tell you how you should do it. I don't listen to them. No. And I know that there's a risk there, but I'm going to sit in the room. I'm going to be a human because you should read this script. No, thank you. I'm not going to do that. I do not. It really depends.
Yeah, like the process you go through is important because there are certain things that could come back and bite you, but the process is important. But you have to be.
I still know you're Canadian. You're trying, but I still know you're Canadian.
I'm not trying at all. If I was trying, I would say process. And I would tell you about how my carburetor's not working right now. And how I'm going to go park in the parkade. All right. Couple deep dive resources. Difficult Conversations, How to Discuss What Matters Most by Douglas Stone, Bruce Patton, and Sheila Heen. I have read that one. It's good. Thanks for the Feedback, The Science and Art of Receiving Feedback Well by Douglas Stone and Sheila Heen. So same authors. So good conversation, you guys. We hope that this has been helpful for you when you're thinking about handling layoffs, how to approach them. And sometimes they're not big, massive layoffs. Sometimes it's a little bit of trimming, like, you're going to have to lay off 3 people as opposed to 35 people, but it's still the same. You still go through the same conversation, right? So hopefully something came out of this episode. Chris, you want to close us off?
Hey, we are so grateful for you, the founders. We think that you're the pioneer of economic prosperity. You guys are doing the great work. Keep it up. We're so genuinely grateful to be here along the way with you. We love just thinking that maybe we could be a small resource in your long-term success. If you like us, go to howtofounder.com. Follow us. Give us a good review. If you like Stephanie's hair, if you like my hair, give us a good review. If you don't like Anthony, just leave it alone. Just walk away with it.
If you don't like us, go to the All In podcast and leave them a bad review.
That's right. All In podcast. That is it for today's How to Founder. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.